Good morning, Ribsy readers. We are about to start chapter 5. Ribsy goes to a football game. Before we get our chapter started, I just wanted to say good morning and talk to you about a couple of things. First thing that I wanted to talk to you about is that this morning when I was getting ready to do our videos, I put my happy earrings on because sometimes you need something like an action to really help you change your zone. There's been a lot of different zones lately. There's lots of different information and things like that. So what I decided to do this morning, along with my positive thoughts, was to put on those earrings that I have that are happy, and to let the fact that those are on right now kind of keep me in a good, green, positive zone. I'm also excited to share some of the next chapter with you. I don't know how much background noise you can hear. If you can hear quite a bit, you can probably hear Nick and Joe downstairs playing, and you can probably hear some scratching and playing right next to me, and that's because today's guest reader with Ribsy is Poppy. Here she is. Poppy, say hello. All right, so let's get started with chapter 5. Ribsy goes to a football game. I did leave you off at a little bit of a cliffhanger the last time. Henry's parents had suggested, that maybe they go to the MSPCA and choose another pet for Henry. And I think Henry was probably feeling really hurt by that suggestion, because we know, based on everything that Henry has shown us in Henry and Ribsy and in this text so far, that Ribsy's his dog and he loves him and he really doesn't want to give up until he finds him. So here we go with chapter 5. Henry, I have an idea, said Mr. Huggins at breakfast one morning, about a week after they had discontinued the advertisement for Ribsy in the newspaper. This afternoon, I'll get off from work early and we can go down to the Humane Society and pick out another dog. I don't want another dog, said Henry. I want Ribsy or nothing. Henry, be reasonable, said his mother. Ribsy's been gone for almost a month. If we were going to find him, we would have found him by now. I am being reasonable, said Henry. I just want my dog, that's all. He's got to be someplace. He'll come home as soon as he can make it. I know he will. Maybe somebody has him tied up and he's chewing on that rope right now. How would he feel when he made it home finally and found some other dog eating from his dish? I don't know about that, Henry, said his father. Ribsy is no lassie. He is just an ordinary city dog. Maybe somebody has him fenced in and he's trying to dig his way out, said Henry, ignoring his father's remark. I bet that's what he's doing right this minute, digging under a fence. Now remember, each character has a different perspective, just like we have different perspectives with situations. So Henry is feeling like, why would you ever say that? I would never want another dog. And his parents' perspective is they're trying to make him feel better in a really difficult situation. So this was the best idea that they had. Always remember, we try to look at things from the perspective of everybody has a good intention, but sometimes it doesn't always work out the best. And I'm sure as soon as I read the part where Henry's parents were saying maybe we could get another dog, if I looked out into the classroom and saw all of your faces, or could see them right now as you listen to this, you'd be going, what? No way. And honestly, as a dog owner myself, I wouldn't want another dog either. I would want to keep looking for my Ribsy. But Ribsy was not digging under a fence. Neither was he gnawing through a rope. He was trotting along the sidewalk, enjoying the fall sunshine. His ears were up, his eyes were bright, and his tail was waving. Ribsy was getting used to being lost. He was beginning to enjoy it a little bit. He met so many nice people. Not so nice as Henry, but nice just the same. Except for having to sleep in drafty garages and occasionally, being forced to make a meal out of fishy cat food, Ribsy found a lot to enjoy in the life that he was currently leading. As Ribsy trotted along the sidewalk, he became aware of lines of cars, bumper to bumper, filling the street. Each car was jammed with yelling, shouting high school students, some of them waving pom-poms of crepe paper fastened to sticks. This was a stimulating sight to Ribsy, who felt that with so many noisy young people around, something interesting was bound to happen. Zachary Taylor High School, rah, 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 Taylor, shouted one carload of students. T-T-T-A-Y-Y-Y-L-O-R. Taylor, Taylor, Taylor. Down with Taylor, shouted another carload. Hooray for Chester A. Arthur High School. Ribsy did not understand what it all meant, but it sure sounded like fun. He trotted faster, and soon he saw a mob of high school students crowding towards some narrow openings in an enormous gray concrete wall. Naturally, Ribsy had to investigate to see what all the excitement was about, and so he too joined the big crowd. He wove his way through a forest of legs until he came to one of the gates, where a man was taking tickets. "Beat it, doggy," said the man in a most unfriendly way. But Ribsy was not discouraged. He was a cheerful dog who knew that there were many friendly people in the world. He wiggled his way through more legs until he came to another gate where another person was taking tickets. "No dogs allowed." This person gave Ribsy a small shove with his foot. From inside the wall came the sound of many voices yelling. Something was going on, and Ribsy should not miss it. He tried a third gate. "Hey, Pooch, get lost," the third ticket taker said. Ribsy was still not discouraged. He simply sat down to wait for some change in the situation that would allow him to enter this strange place. Looks like Ribsy's using the power of yet to get into this place. The wait was not unpleasant because many people stopped to pet him while they stood in line waiting for their tickets to be taken. Among the crowd were several boys about Henry Huggins's age, but none of them was Henry. Gradually, the crowd began to thin. A delicious smell floated across Ribsy's nose. He sniffed hungrily and swallowed. Hot dogs. There were hot dogs, someplace inside this strange wall. Ribsy moved closer to the gate, wagged his tail, and fixed the gatekeeper with his most eager, pleading look as memories of home and hot dogs passed through his thoughts. Henry Huggins was very fond of hot dogs and often ate one after school. Of course, he always gave one to Ribsy, too. "Scram," said the gatekeeper, reaching for a ticket. Ribsy sat down and held up his left paw. This had worked before. It might work again. "I see you're a southpaw," remarked the gatekeeper, who was more sociable now that there were no tickets to take. "Well, offering to shake hands won't do you any good. You still can't come inside the stadium." Ribsy whimpered. "No southpaw pooches allowed," said the ticket person. "Now beat it." Ribsy had zero intention of leaving. Some ancestor of his had waited patiently at a rat hole. He would wait patiently at this gate. He lay down with his nose on his paws and waited. It's not easy to be patient. The sounds from inside told him he was missing something exciting, and those hot dogs smelled so good he could hardly stand it. This was one of the days he'd been forced to eat cat food. He lay watching and waiting and thinking about hot dogs for what seemed like a long, long time. Inside, a band began to play and voices began to sing. Ribsy did not enjoy this as much as shouting, but even though music bothered his sensitive ears, he could appreciate the enthusiasm of the crowd. There was more yelling, and then a scream went up from the whole crowd, and a man's voice boomed over the loudspeaker. Ribsy did not care at all for the loudspeaker, which hurt his ears, but did not hurt them enough to drive him away. Hunger, curiosity, and the desire to be in on the excitement held him to his vigil at the gate. A boy about Henry's age, wearing jeans patched on both knees and on the seat, appeared at the gate. "Hey, mister, can I go in? The game's already started and the stadium isn't full." The man hesitated before he answered. "Sure, kid, go on in." After the gatekeeper kept his eye on Ribsy, and Ribsy kept his eye on the gatekeeper. Inside, there was more screaming. Someone pounded a drum, and someone rattled a cowbell. Ribsy closed his eyes. He would fool that man. He looked as if he was asleep, but he was not. He was letting his nose and ears tell him when the man was still there or when the man was not guarding his gate. "T-T-T-A-A-Y!" shouted the students from the Zachary Taylor High School. The man moved a few feet from the gate. He was so busy trying to see what was going on inside that he did not notice Ribsy flick open one eye. After a few minutes, he glanced back at the dog, who was apparently sound asleep. Satisfied that the dog would not try to get into the stadium, the man moved farther inside and up the ramp that led to the grandstand seats. Ribsy opened a hair's breadth of one eye and closed it again. The man took a chance and moved even farther from his post. Here's an illustration to show exactly what Ribsy is doing while the man stays watch. I think this shows that Ribsy is a pretty creative character. You have to do a lot of thinking to come up with some ways to fool a gatekeeper just so you can get inside and see some noise and taste some hot dogs. After making sure the gatekeeper had his back turned, Ribsy sprang to his feet, dashed through the gate, and around the concrete wall that surrounded the field. Even if he had been wearing jingling license tags, he could not have been heard above the uproar that was happening inside. When he was a safe distance from the gatekeeper, he trotted up a ramp where he could see what was going on inside this strange and interesting place. I'm going to pause for a minute here because as a reader, I'm getting really excited about what's happening, even though I've read this story a bunch of times before. And I'm noticing that some of the words that I'm reading on the page are getting mixed up. Remember, as a good reader, you want to self-monitor. Am I doing a good job? Am I reading too fast? Am I reading too slow? Is there a part that I might need to reread? We'll read a little bit more, and then I'm going to leave you probably on a cliffhanger with some things to think about. What Ribsy saw inside the stadium was enough to excite any red-blooded dog. The sun was shining down on thousands of lively boys and girls, all of them jumping up and down and yelling, and many of them eating hot dogs. Below him lay an enormous field of grass, nice flat grass, just right for running on. There wasn't a rock or a burr or a thistle on that whole field. And on the grass, there were boys, quite a few boys, in football gear, running and tumbling all over one another. There was also 3 men in striped shirts who appeared to be running after the boys. And that was not all. The boys had a football for chasing. A dog really could not ask for much more. Ribsy was delirious with the joy and excitement of it all. We might even say that at this point, Ribsy is red zoned, right? He is so excited about what's happening right now. If you were to make a prediction, would you predict that Ribsy's going onto the field? I know I would. Ribsy was delirious with the joy and excitement of it all. He longed to get down there on that grass and to romp with the boys and chase that ball. He barked wildly. "Hey, look, a dog," said a boy sitting on a bleacher near Ribsy. "Maybe we better get him out of here," said a second boy who was eating a hot dog. He can't hurt anything way up here," said the first boy, his eyes on the football game below. Ribsy looked at the hot dog and swallowed. The boy obligingly broke off a piece and dropped it on the concrete for Ribsy, who gobbled it up. It was the first food he had had in a long time that tasted like home. He wished he had more. For some strange reason, the 2 boys were now pounding each other on the back. "Boy, oh boy," one of them was saying, "a touchdown for Taylor High." Then he stuffed the last of his hot dog into his mouth. Ribsy lost interest in that boy after that and wandered up and down the steps that separated the row of bleachers. He'd never seen so many obliging people in one place before in all his life. All he had to do was sit down and stare at someone eating a hot dog, and a piece was almost sure to be broken off and dropped at his feet. At first, Ribsy gobbled up both the bun and the hot dog. But in a little while, he became choosy, rejecting the bun if it had mustard on it, and finally skipping the bun altogether and just swallowing the hot dogs. With familiar food in his stomach and so many kind people around him, Ribsy was happy. He began to look for a way to get in on the excitement below. He trotted along the wall that rimmed the field, and when the cheering was especially loud, he put his paws up on the edge of the wall and barked. He was barking from sheer excitement, and also because he saw below him some boys about Henry's age who were standing on the edge of the field, trying to look important. "Look," squealed a girl, "a dog cheering for Taylor High." "Oh, isn't he darling?" said another girl. "Look at his cute collar trimmed with rhinestones. Maybe we could make him our mascot." A boy said, "Somebody better get him out of here. A dog can wreck a football game." But this game was so exciting, with the score 7-6 in favor of Zachary Taylor High, that no one wanted to take his eyes from the players long enough to remove a dog from the stadium. One team grabbed the ball and raced toward one end of the field. Before the boy who carried the ball was able to cross the line for a touchdown, the other team managed to capture the ball and went racing off to the opposite end of the field. The game was so close that no one was paying attention to Ribsy. I'm going to stop exactly right there because it's the perfect cliffhanger spot. And I know you would all be going, oh, Miss Glanville, can't we just read more? And the answer to that is yes, but not right now. I hope you have a great afternoon. I'm excited that we're going to get a little snow today. It seems kind of weird, snow, warm weather. I hope you get a chance to enjoy it. And remember, everyone at home is doing their best to deal with this situation. So please try to do your best too. Talk to you soon.